Okay, so in the first part, we looked at finding x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope when we had a graph. And we saw that was pretty easy to just locate the points where they were on the axes or to draw in a triangle in order to find the slope. But the question becomes, how can we find them without the graph? Maybe we have an equation that doesn't graph very easily, or maybe we don't have graph paper and we can't make an accurate graph. Can we still find these three values? And the key is, yes, we can. So to start us off, I want to remind you about the formula we have for the equation of a line. And there's more than one way we can write the equation of the line, but for our purposes right now, we're going to focus on just this version, y equals mx plus b. And you may remember that based on this formula right here, the value for m is going to be your slope or the growth of your equation. And the value for b is going to be your y-intercept, or it's sometimes referred to as the starting value. So the idea here is the moment I give you an equation, two of our 3 points of interest we know right away. So let's jump into an example real quick. First example I'll take a look at is this one right here. Y equals 3x plus 18. And so if we follow the pattern that we just established in the recall above, then that means that this 3 right here, because it's the number in front of x, I already know that my slope is 3. Okay? If you wanted to think about the triangle, you could also write it as 3 over 1 if you're trying to remember how much up, how much to the right. By the same logic, I also know that this last number here, the 18 by itself with no x, that will be my y-intercept. And same as we did on the previous video, I'm going to list my intercept as an ordered pair. So remember, your y-intercepts will always have the 0 for x and then the number after. Okay? So I've now found 2 of my 3 traits. Where it gets a little more interesting is when we decide, hey, let's find the x-intercept. I've already used all the numbers that I have, so the x-intercept isn't just sitting there for me, but I can find it pretty easily, and here's how. When we think back to our x-intercept on the x-axis, you might remember that the y-coordinate was 0. And that's because no matter what point I put on this x-axis, the y-coordinate is always 0. And I'm going to use that to my advantage. Because if I want to find the x-intercept, all I have to do is set y equal to 0 and then solve for x. And I'm going to do that right now. I am going to switch over to black just to make sure this shows up more on video. But if I take my original equation, y equals 3x plus 18, I'm going to replace y with 0. And so I now have 0 equals 3x plus 18. Okay, and then now I'm going to solve for x. So in order to get x by itself, you might remember that we need to move the numbers to the other side by doing the opposite step. So the fact that I have a plus 18, I'm going to subtract 18 from both sides. So now I've got negative 18 is equal to 3x, because 18 take away 18 becomes 0. That looks like a 15. There we go. And then if I'm going to undo this 3 right here, right now I have 3 times x, so I need to divide by 3. And so now on the right hand side, all I have left is an x. On the left hand side, negative 18 divided by 3 will become a negative 6. And so now that I know what x is, I can now say that my x-intercept for this particular problem will be -6, 0. And so by using just a little bit of algebra, we're able to find that x-intercept because we take advantage of the fact that y must be 0, and then we just have to solve for x. Let's take a look at one more real quick. Second example. Let's go y equals -1/2 x plus 6. Okay. Same idea. My slope is the number in front of x, so it will be the entire -1/2. My y-intercept is the number being added or subtracted without an x, so it will be 6. But oh wait, I just made a mistake because remember, we always want to list them as ordered pairs. So 0, 6. And then finally, my x-intercept, we have to do a little bit of work to find using some algebra. So if I come over here, I'm going to have 0 is equal to -1/2 x plus 6. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. I have -6 is equal to -1/2 x. Somehow I have to move this number to the other side. You may not be comfortable dividing by the -1/2. So I just want to give you as an option that one of the strategies we can use is called a fraction buster. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this side by a 2, and I'm going to multiply this side by a 2. In essence, I'm multiplying by my denominator. And the reason that's helpful is because over here I now have a 2 on top, a 2 on the bottom, which means they now cancel out. And so on the left hand side, 2 times -6 is a -12. And on the right hand side, my 2's canceled out and I'm left with a -1x. Well, in order to get the -1 gone, I'm going to divide it over. So divide by -1. And that's going to leave me with x is equal to a +12. I can take that value, come over, and write my x-intercept as an ordered pair, 12, 0. So even if we do not have the graph, we do have a strategy we can use in order to find our x and y intercepts.